So today we're going to start working on our second painting, and this is back up at the Osage Hills, same area of the photograph that we worked on last week. I have painted this before. I think I really enjoy this motif because we have this road, this S-curve that is coming around and bringing the viewer around all the way up here past this tree. But we have this tree right here that we're going to make the point of interest. We want this to be where we want the viewer to go to. The other thing is that I'm going to make a few little changes from the painting, my first painting that I did. Number one, I am working on a rectangle shape canvas versus square, which was the first painting that I did of this. So it's a little bit different setup. And then also I'm going to make a few changes. So in terms of composition, I have decided to lower these trees right here and be able and put in a little bit more of this background hill. I like the way these background hills are at an angle pointing this direction to our point of interest tree. Again, it's another way in our composition to direct the viewer to what we want to say. And so we've got the road taking you through, and then we've got these hills at an angle. So in order to emphasize that, I'm going to lower these trees right here a little bit to be able to put in more of that back hill right there. The other thing is that I want to push the color. And when you hear an artist say, you know, I'm pushing the color, so that means, you know, making it, okay, for an example, say we have a brown. Well, maybe we want to push that brown a little bit to the red side, or maybe we want to push it a little bit to the purple side. It's just up to you as the artist to bring out some color that you think is going to make your painting really interesting and really draw the viewers in. Again, we've got all of this green with all of these grasses. And there are some, you know, oranges in there and violets in there. So we really want to kind of push that color. The other thing, and I have mixed my paints, pre-mixed them. So these are pretty much what we did with our first painting. These mixtures. We have the ultramarine blue and cadmium yellow, and we have the very darkest dark, which is right here and along here and right along here. And then we have these three values here, dark, mid-tone, and light of these greens. But I also have some mixtures of just yellow ochre and some Viridian, and with some white. And this is, just another green that is really interesting. It's not as really chromatic as these greens up here, but you know, with greens, there's all different shades, different values of greens. There's warm greens, light, cool greens. So if the more we add a variety, the more realistic our painting is going to look. So we're adding these this week so we can see how that's going to work with these more warm chromatic greens. And then I've got our mix of the orange. I've got a mix of some violets. Got that mix of that Viridian with cadmium yellow and white. Got my sky mixtures, and I have my hill mixtures in the background, that really grayed down green and that kind of grayed down purple that we're using for that hill. I haven't mixed anything yet for the road. I actually need a little bit more real estate on my palette for that, but I will definitely get to it. With this country road, I'm going to be using some warms and cools, very light warms and cools. I don't want it to go lighter than the sky, even though this does look very light in this photograph. I don't want it to compete with the light in the sky, but I'm going to be using some, most likely some light oranges and violets, and then lay some light, even some of that sky color, that blue sky color, we can just lay it right on there. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out my motif with the yellow ochre. I have gone ahead and toned my canvas, and I'm going to look at where is my middle horizontals and verticals to help me draw this out. I know that I want my horizon, I know that I want these hills to be above the center, right? Remember, we want them to be above the center of the canvas. So I'm going to start this. And of course, if we're doing a sky painting, we would put everything below the center and to emphasize the sky. But this is, again, this is all about our foreground and our background. So I have this tree right here. And I know that people have, get kind of overwhelmed with drawing and painting trees, and I may even do a short little demo of that in class for you guys. Think of a tree as just it's a big plant. So, you've done plants before. We've done flowers, plants. That's all a tree is a plant. And I've got this tree right up here in the foreground. I'm going to start the bottom. Let's see, I'm going to start this because we've got some perspective going on here. And then I'm going to start it right here. There's really actually several trees all along here. But with this vertical perspective, it's just another way to create depth and draw the viewer into the painting. And I am going to most likely take this tree just over the top of my canvas. Again, I'm going to bring these trees down a bit. So I can get a little bit more of that hill in the background. Raise that up too. Then I'm going to get my road, and we want this road to be, really, we want this S curve. It's bigger down here at the foreground. And then we've got kind of these grasses, like where they've kind of mowed. So some of this is flat here, and then got these grasses right along here. These grasses really kind of come up over the road. And again, I really enjoy these these horizontal lines that makes. Just add some interest and variety in my foreground. And then I'm going to kind of go back to these trees where it's darkest, right down here. Got a little bit of red, and that's okay. I kind of like it. And we've got some sky holes right here in this tree where it's up above the hill. And we'll talk about sky holes, but I'm not worried about that right now. too dark. And then this back hill kind of starts right down here, where this foreground, middle ground meet with the background. And then I can take my paper towel like we do, and I'm going to pull out for my sky. And kind of where the road is, because these are our lightest lights in our composition. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of pull this out here too, because this will get lighter and lighter and lighter as we go back. And these really light grasses here. I'm going to go back and just kind of reestablish this grass. These grasses were kind of more up about like this. Okay. So now I can start applying my color. And so I'm going to start with these darks right here. And this is our darkest mixture that we have. And right now I'm using a big brush. I'm going to go to my gel. And so our first block in of color is going to be thin. We're not going to overuse this gel. But after we get our first block in of color, we're going to stop using the gel and use really thick passages of paint. I'm going to dip into my dark. I'm going to put it so I see it right here. And I really just scrub a lot of this in when I get started with this first block in. some darks kind of down here. I see okay, rinse out my brush. And so now I'm going to go into my next darkest green and start laying that in. Do some more here. I'm going to bring, let's see, we've got this. I know that this will go lighter, and that's okay. I want to go ahead and get some of this dark in, and then I can lay the light on top of it. And I know that I'll need to go back and reestablish a lot of those darks. That's just part of the process. So I'm going to take some of that same mix, that same dark mix, kind of put it where these horizontal lines are. Especially right up here in the foreground. And so I also might take a little bit of that same mix and just put a little bit here. rinsed off my brush again in my Gamsol. And now I'm going to go up in my green mix. Kind of go up in value. When we scrub in like this, it just gets a variety of strokes at the very beginning. And again, I know that this is just a block in, so I'll have to go back and reestablish a lot of this. Hair from my brush right there. That happens. Back to some of my dark, throw some of that in. Back to my light. And then this is going to get lighter and lighter. So I'll move up to my lighter greens. Some of it here. Again, these are grasses, so there's quite a variety of them. Throw some of this here, changing my stroke direction a bit. And then so you can do some horizontal strokes and then back to vertical strokes. I'm looking at my photo as I'm doing this. Right now we have to look at our photo to know what we're doing. I can't emphasize that enough. and forth. I'm just really going back and forth. And at this stage, at this block end stage, the main thing is we just want to cover up our canvas. We just want to get paint on there. We can't really work on it until we've got our whole canvas covered. I'm gonna get some interesting back and forth with our strokes, verticals, horizontals. Rinsing out my brush. Now I will go back to these lights. Right here is a little darker along this where the grass has been mowed by the road. And it's, you know, when we're doing these roads, it's kind of normal to lose, in the process, lose this S curve. Our brain wants to straighten it out, but we don't want a straight road because that could cause a very static looking composition. So just have to go back and make sure that we've got that S curve established. Obviously, there's a lot of changes we're going to be making here, reestablishing these dark darks, but I want to move on. You know, we can get so hyper-focused in one area and keep working and working and working, and then we've just overworked it. And we can't make decisions on one thing if we feel like something is not off and we want to change it. Maybe it's other areas that are off instead. Though we can't make those decisions until we've covered our canvas with paint. And so now I'm going to do this back hill, and I have both colors that we used last week, that kind of grayed down green and the grayed down purple, and so I'm going to use both of them. Just put that in. And remember, I lowered those front trees right here so I could put more of that in so that we could have both of this hill going right towards that tree, which is what we want the viewer to go to. That's the point of interest. You have to establish a point of interest, especially in a landscape, because we are so bombarded with information. And again, it's so different than when we are doing a still life. You know, we're not the we're not the director of the landscape, and so all we can do is get our, look at our motif and make some decisions about editing. What do I want to take out? What do I want to include? What do I want to manipulate? It is a lot of times it is manipulation, moving things around, making the mountain bigger, making the mountain smaller, making the tree bigger, taking out a tree. Taking things out that just, we don't like it. It doesn't add to the composition. We want to get rid of things, of information that just does not add to what we're wanting to say in our painting. What I'm doing, I'm taking my brush here and I'm looking, I've got this hill that is sloping towards this tree, and I want to make sure it looks like it's all one hill. So I'm going to make sure that these lines visually would look like it's all one hill. So it's all kind of coming towards each other. Rinsing out my brush. I know that I cut this in a little too much because I've got my my foreground and my middle ground ending right here up to this hill, and so I would want to take a look at that tree over there and say, well, I'm going to put it right more up to about to here. But still low enough that I can see this mountain and the hill in the background. I keep switching from hill to mountain, hill to mountain. Again, I guess these are our mountains, these Osage hills. So now I'm going to put my sky in, changing my brush. And I'm changing my brush. I'm not really crazy about that one because it's really soft. I don't think it could hold a lot of paint. We'll see. I'm gonna switch to a little bit stiffer brush. So I'm gonna put in my light mix for my sky. I'll add some light to that. Sky is where our light comes from. And I may end up getting this slightly lighter, but we'll see. I'm just going to get this laid in. And I can see where we're at. And then my little bit darker mix with my my blue, my ultramarine blue. And I think that needs more white. Transition there. So I'm leaving a lot of space here. I haven't, you know, I think this tree is probably going to end up coming up a bit. So I'm just going to kind of leave that. And so really the last thing that I want to put on at this stage is this road. So I'm going to, I made a violet, kind of a, it's just alizarin crimson, our ultramarine blue and white. And I'm going to get some of that, but make it a little, I'll put more white in it. Lighten it up. And this is pretty chromatic. I have not grayed this down with like a yellow ochre, but because I'm going to be laying some other colors on top of it, it could be chromatic because it will end up kind of graying down when I put those other colors on it. This really is going to be a mix, a variety of strokes of this purple, and then some orange, and then some blue. And so Now I think I will also take some of my orange that I've mixed up and get it a little lighter. Throw some of that in. Just some spots. Maybe, let's do this green. Let's get some horizontals. Some of this is, you know, this is a country road, so some of this is going right into the grasses. It has not been well groomed because it's a country road. So be darker in the front and then lighter as you get further and further back. Okay. And now I'm going to start laying some of, I think I'm just going to take some of that sky color that I already have mixed up and lay some of that in, kind of to see where I'm at. I don't want to, I don't want to get rid of these colors that I've laid in. So I'm going to make my strokes not as hard. I'm going to be more gentle to kind of just gently go over it. And again, I know that this is the block in, so I have lots of opportunities to make changes with my next passages of color. And that's a great thing about oil painting, is that there's always an opportunity to make changes. Do our own editing. If something's not working, you've got a lot of time to get that fixed. Try and go lighter here. As we lay colors on top of each other, you know, just like when we mix, especially complementary colors, they're going to darken each other. So other times you have to get more white into your mix. Right in like that. Stand back and take a look. Again, I don't want it to be lighter than my sky. So I do think that my sky will lighten up though. I'm pretty certain that I've gotten it a little too dark at this stage. But again, I can change that. Okay, so I've got my canvas covered, and now I'm not gonna use gel anymore. I am gonna go back to my colors, reestablish. We get a little bit more details, but we're not really doing details per se. You know, we're painting shapes and values. But I wanna let's get this dark back in. So, trees. So I am going to kind of pull this up and not necessarily cover all of some of this color here that's lighter. So when we're painting trees, we're not painting individual leaves. We're painting shapes and values, as we've talked before. I'm not scrubbing this in like I was before. And I'm trying to keep from, I don't want to cover all of that mid-tone up. Kind of trying to get my shape established a little better. See some of this dark right up here. And then going back to the value up from that. And I can just, and I want to load up my brush. Loading up your brush means really getting a lot of paint on there. So both sides of my brush, like that. I'm just going to lay it on top. Again, without covering up that dark. And I'll just take some of the end of my brush right up over where I put sky color in. The edges of trees are soft. You know, think about when we've done flowers. Remember, the edges of flowers are very soft. And again, you know, I know that a lot of times people get intimidated with painting trees, but they're just great big plants. This is darker down here. And this is where I want the viewer to look. Okay. I'm just kind of standing back and taking a look. The only thing that will change will be when I put the sky back in and I make some of these sky holes. And to make some sky holes, I'll take my Sky Mix. So sky holes are going to be slightly darker than part of the Sky Mix, because it's just, if you put in really light mix of your sky, it just will not read right. So I'm just taking my brush and just pulling it in, kind of get just like that. Just and put that right. If it's with really thick paint, I can just lay that over the green like that. And then I can go back and brush that the green, and I can see if I want to make any changes here. I can even pull it like this. And you don't want to do too many sky holes. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Okay, so I'm going to lay in some of my dark, reestablish some of my dark right here, here. You know, as we paint, the more we paint, the more we look at our subject, the more we see. That's why it's so important that, you know, you don't panic early on and think, oh, this just isn't working, because you will see more as you go, and your painting it's going to evolve. We're not going to start out and spend an hour making a great masterpiece. And landscapes really is just all about the abstract shapes and trying not to get too detailed. The more detailed we get, probably the less we're going to like it. stay away from the details. So I've already been painting for about an hour, and there's a lot to do here. This is just my first block in. I'll show you real quick what I would go to next. I would go back and get thicker paint on all of this. And then I'm going to start laying in some of these other greens. I've got some of these greens that I mixed to get a variety. Remember, I talked about how, you know, let's get a variety of greens, because that's nature. It's all around us, and the more variety that we have in our greens, the more it's going to look realistic, and the more we're going to like our painting. So I'm just throwing some of these in here so you can see the difference in some of these colors and what you're going to get when you add this variety. We start getting some of these grasses that we can just pull in, get some of these vertical and horizontal strokes, but a lot of verticals with our grasses. And this will get lighter and lighter as it goes back. I'm just laying this on top of what I've already got. And then I'll add some of that green accent that we made with the Viridian and Cad Yellow and white. So a lot of that's going to go back here because it's a cool mix. And remember, as we go back into the background, it gets cooler and cooler. And then I'll also put some of that violet that I made. So this is as far as I'm going to go on the video. I'm going to keep working on this. I will bring the finished painting in next week or this coming Saturday when we do this painting, and help you guys with getting it as finished as we can within the time that we have. See you soon.